They walk among us. They talk, laugh, cry, sometimes convincingly. They hold jobs, raise children, post selfies. But behind their eyes, something is missing, something essential. They move through life like actors reading lines from a script they never wrote. And according to one of the most disturbing spiritual theories to surface in recent years, they may not be fully human, not in the way you think. The idea is as haunting as it is profound. What if 50% of the people on this planet are not truly conscious? What if they are what mystics call organic portals? Human-shaped forms without individualized souls, designed to mimic emotion, echo opinions, and keep the dream of normalcy alive. If that's true, then here's the question that will follow you. How do you know you're not one of them? This is not science fiction. This is a psychological and metaphysical rabbit hole that cuts through science, mysticism, philosophy, and direct human experience. You've felt it, haven't you? That eerie moment when someone speaks, but it feels like no one's really home. That feeling of being surrounded by people who never seem to ask why, who never seem to really feel. And maybe the Matrix wasn't a metaphor after all. Maybe this world really is a simulation. A stage so elaborate it needs background characters to keep the scenery moving, to keep you from waking up. This video is not about answers, it's about inquiry. A journey into forgotten texts, suppressed science, ancient wisdom, and strange truths hidden in plain sight. We're not just asking what's real, we're asking who is real. And more urgently, are you? There are people you meet who seem perfectly normal on the surface. They say the right things, laugh at the right moments, follow every social cue like they've rehearsed it 1,000 times. And yet, something essential is missing. You leave the conversation with a hollow echo in your chest, like you've just interacted with a costume, flesh and sound, but no spark. No soul, no presence. In esoteric teachings, they are called organic portals. Not in cruelty, not in contempt, but as a way of naming the unnerving observation that not all who appear human are conscious in the same way. These are not evil people. They are simply unawakened vessels, moving through life with precision, but not depth. According to the Cassiopean channelings and other spiritual frameworks, organic portals are humans without an individualized soul, beings who function through collective programs, like living reflections of societal expectation. They are not here to grow, they are here to maintain, to replicate patterns, preserve the structure, reinforce the dream. And in doing so, they serve a function, one that feels antagonistic to anyone on the path of awakening. Their presence creates friction. They subtly undermine the real by normalizing the scripted. When you speak from the soul, they look confused. When you question the rules, they reinforce them. When you express inner clarity, they mock or dismiss. Not out of malice, but because they cannot see what you see. And so the Matrix sustains itself, not through violent force, but through subtle mimicry, through the illusion that everyone agrees, everyone conforms, everyone believes in the same artificial sky. And if you, the awakened, begin to doubt yourself, begin to feel isolated, disconnected, you've walked into the trap. That's the true function of the organic portal, not to harm you, but to exhaust your knowing, to drain your certainty, to lull your energy back into slumber. But awareness is immunity. When you understand the role of these placeholders, you stop trying to wake them. You stop seeking soul in spaces where soul was never planted. You learn to observe without absorbing, to witness without merging, to maintain your field. This is not about arrogance. It is about energetic hygiene. Because the most dangerous thing is not being surrounded by the unconscious. It's forgetting you were once unconscious too. So you meet them with quiet compassion, not connection. You engage when needed, but anchor within. You stop projecting depth where there is only surface, and instead turn inward, remembering who you are and why you came here. The matrix may surround you, but your presence, clear, awake, embodied, becomes the glitch it cannot contain. What if the world you're touching, the street you walk on, the air you breathe, even the thoughts in your head, is a sophisticated simulation? Not metaphorically, but quite literally. This isn't a fringe idea anymore. Nick Bostrom, philosopher at Oxford, laid the groundwork. Elon Musk picked it up and broadcasted it into pop culture. The premise is disturbingly simple. If a civilization can create conscious simulations, they almost certainly have. And if so, the odds that you're in the original reality are vanishingly small. The implications are staggering. But the heart of the idea isn't just in the tech, it's in consciousness. Because even within a simulation, not all players are equal. Enter the concept of philosophical zombies, entities that look and act exactly like humans but have no subjective experience, no inner life. They scream if you hurt them, but they don't feel pain. They laugh, but they don't know why. Their words are generated, not chosen. Their gaze is empty not because it hides something, but because there's nothing behind it. These ideas, though radical, resonate with an ancient intuition. Plato spoke of the cave, where humans only saw shadows on the wall and mistook them for reality. Today's shadows come in 4K. They're interactive, seductive, convincing. But still, they're shadows. The system has grown so intricate that it requires very few truly conscious beings to maintain the illusion. It can auto-generate the rest. People, places, patterns. All coded to keep your attention on the screen, never behind it. Yet reality glitches. You've seen it. A moment where time bends, where someone repeats a phrase like a broken loop, where the rules of cause and effect wobble just enough to make your skin tingle. These aren't accidents. They're invitations, warnings, cracks in the code that whisper, this is not what it seems. And you're the variable, the unscripted line, the one who notices the curtain fluttering behind the wizard's machine. This awakening is not a rebellion of force, it's a rebellion of perception. When you notice, you shift. When you shift, the system adapts, not to wake you, but to reabsorb you, to soothe you back into sleep with distractions, consensus, noise. That's why your awareness must become an instrument, not a weapon, not a shield, but a lens. You start to see where the conversation doesn't feel human, where the behavior repeats, where energy feels hollow. These are not conclusions, they are cues. And in noticing them, you begin the slow, sacred act of remembering that you were never born to play a role. You were born to wake others from theirs. At first, it seemed like a joke, a meme. The blank stare, the gray face, the phrase, "I'm an NPC," echoing across message boards. But the meme didn't fade, it spread. It resonated. And that should have told us something deeper was at play. Because memes at their most viral are rarely just humor. They are pressure valves, cultural symbols erupting from collective tension. And the NPC meme, unmistakably, was a signal. A cry from a generation gasping for authenticity in a world that felt staged. To call someone an NPC, a non-player character, is to suggest they are not fully alive, that they repeat what they're told, move only within the boundaries of the script, and never question the parameters of the game. It's not about intelligence, it's about presence. The sense that some people are physically here, but energetically absent. And for many, especially the young, this is more than satire. It's a daily sensation. Sitting in classrooms, scrolling through social media, attending corporate meetings, you sense it. Eyes that don't register depth, words that lack origin, emotions that seem pre-installed. This isn't superiority, it's disorientation. You're surrounded by people who seem real, but when you reach for meaning, your hand passes through mist. And in that eerie silence, a question emerges. Is it me? Or is this reality fundamentally hollow? That's the moment of awakening, when the meme becomes a mirror, when you realize you're not alone in feeling alone. And that realization breaks the spell. What began as mockery turns into recognition. You're witnessing a mass shift in awareness. The NPC meme gave people a language for something they couldn't name before. This aching sense that something essential is missing from modern life. But the danger is this. If we use the meme to mock rather than awaken, we become what we critique. The task isn't to point fingers and declare who's asleep. It's to invite consciousness, to turn viral awareness into viral presence. The real power of the meme lies not in who it targets, but in what it reveals. That we, as a culture, are starving for realness, and we're beginning to demand it. So next time you feel that numbness in a room, that repetition in a conversation, don't judge it, interrupt it. Ask a real question. Pause the script. Offer something alive. Because the difference between an NPC and a conscious being might be as simple as one moment of truth. There are moments when you're speaking to someone and mid-sentence you realize you're alone, not physically but spiritually. You search their eyes for presence and find only glass. They nod, respond, maybe even smile, but you can feel it. No one is there. The words are echoes. The gestures are imitations. You're not in conversation, you're in playback. That feeling, so eerie and disorienting, cuts deeper than loneliness. It suggests something existential. Are we surrounded by humans or by husks? But before we drift too far into judgment, Carl Jung offers a mirror. He warned that what disturbs us most in others is often a projection of what lies dormant within ourselves. The shadow, he called it. The unconscious content we deny in ourselves tends to emerge in others, magnified, exaggerated, unavoidable. So perhaps when we see emptiness in someone's gaze, we're glimpsing the very part of us that has gone cold. The part still reacting, still looping, still unawake. This is where awakening becomes dangerous, not because of truth, but because of pride. If we conclude that some people are soulless, we risk forgetting our own past sleep, our own seasons of numbness, our autopilot years, and from that forgetting comes separation, superiority, a kind of spiritual elitism that echoes the very machinery we sought to escape. It's a trap, one designed by the system itself, to turn awakening into arrogance and awareness into isolation. Because here's the deeper paradox: seeing through the matrix doesn't make you better, it makes you responsible. When you notice someone is running a script, the most awakened thing you can do is not point it out but hold space. You don't mock the NPC. You don't shame the programmed. You stay present. You offer a breath of the real in a room full of fiction. That's compassion. That's power. Compassion does not mean accepting everything. It means refusing to dehumanize, even when the humanity seems missing. It means knowing that the system doesn't just erase presence, it erodes empathy. And if you lose that, you've joined it. Not in code, but in coldness. True awakening is soft, not weak, but yielding. It sees the illusion and doesn't flinch, but also doesn't harden. It remembers that every empty gaze might be the moment before someone wakes up. And when they do, what they'll need most is not your diagnosis, but your example. There comes a point in every awakening when the gaze turns inward. You've questioned others. You've sensed the hollowness in systems, seen the pattern in people, named the portal in their behavior. But now the question turns on you. When was the last time you acted out of pure habit? When did your own words feel scripted, your smile automatic, your choices predetermined? The truth cuts sharper when it points home. Because the matrix doesn't just exist out there. It replicates through us, through every unconscious moment we agree to play our role. You're not immune. None of us are. And the danger of awakening is believing that we are. That once we see, we stop participating. But the matrix is subtle. It adapts. It makes you believe you've exited while gently rerouting you back into performance. So what's the real escape? It's not in hunting for who's fake. It's in catching yourself, mid-script, mid-scroll, mid-reaction, and choosing otherwise. Choosing to pause instead of respond, to listen instead of repeat, to breathe instead of obey. These are the tiny rebellions, the glitches in your own code, the moments where presence interrupts programming, because presence is the glitch. It's the unpredictable variable the system can't simulate. And when you choose presence, you crack the rhythm. You become the anomaly, not loud, not violent, but still enough to ripple, still enough to be felt. And when others feel it, they remember, however faintly, that they too were once real. This practice isn't grand, it's subtle. It's the way you hold a gaze with full attention, the way you speak only when rooted in your own knowing, the way you let silence breathe instead of filling it with noise. It's daily, minute by minute. It's the act of unlearning every line the matrix gave you and writing your own instead. So forget the search for soulless faces. Look for the unconscious in yourself, not to shame it, but to wake it. Because every time you disrupt your own autopilot, you become the proof that freedom is possible. Not in escape, but in embodiment. You are the glitch. You are the whisper that rewrites the loop. And no system, no matter how elaborate, can contain a soul that chooses to be fully alive. This theory, this whisper that half the world may be soulless, is not a doctrine of division. It's a mirror, not to point outward but to reflect inward. It doesn't demand you label others. It invites you to recognize the unconscious in yourself, the moments when you, too, drift from essence into automation. Because in a world dimmed by distraction, where presence is rare and awareness is almost radical, simply staying awake becomes an act of rebellion. And in that wakefulness, you offer something no system can counterfeit, a real signal in a world of static, a living frequency in a field of simulation. So ask yourself again, are you a soul choosing each step, or are you simply playing the role you were given? That question, if held honestly, can disrupt the deepest programming, because it reminds you that the matrix isn't only what surrounds you, it's what you agree to become. And if you remain, despite the noise, despite the pull, rooted in your own truth, your own rhythm, your own light, you become more than an exception. You become a mirror, a living memory, a presence that helps others remember they were never meant to be data points or echoes. They were meant to awaken. So don't preach, don't prove, just live it, radiate it. Be the stillness in the chaos. Be the human in a world of patterns. Be the soul that helps another one remember they still have one.